Hey, come dive deep. What has happened through history on the 15th of Av? We have 7 weeks now until the new year of the Hebrew calendar, the end of the dying in the desert. So we talked about how the Lord was taking out that whole old generation. Now let's go into the 38 years of the wandering in the desert. This is God's decree that the entire generation would then need to die before they can go over into the promised land. There's going to be a 38 of wandering. Now, this isn't a contradiction. You say, well, I thought they're supposed to be in the wilderness for 40 years. And when we went into the study, there was the decree that was made in Numbers 14:34, according to the numbers of days in which you spied out the land, 40 days, for each day you shall bear your guilt 1 year, namely 40 years, and you shall know my rejection. So he is stating that this is going to be the time. It's the day equals to years. Remember how the Lord works in his numbers. There is no timeline inconsistency with the 38. The 2 years was the time that they would spend at the Mount Sinai. It says that they went around the outskirts of the mountain then there for 2 years. Then the Lord tells them, enough of the outskirting of the mountain. It's time for you now to go out. As we go into scriptures, it begins to tell us about how they are going to take 38 years to get from one part of the land to the next. This is the time that it would take for that old generation to die off. God's decree of a whole generation not being able to pass into the promised land. On Av 15th is when they get to cross over. It says, after 38 years of wandering through the wilderness, the dying finally ended, and a new generation of Jews stood ready to enter into the promised land. This is God's decree of a whole generation passing in the wilderness. The people are ready to cross over. The crossing takes place on Av 15. This is the time of the new generation, the restoration, the conciliation. Everything the Lord is doing here on the 15th of Av is marked to the 38-year mark. Let's go over the desert years in Deuteronomy 2:14. And the time we took to come from Kadesh until we crossed over the valley of the Zered was 38 years, until all the generation of men of war was consumed from the midst of the camp, just as the Lord had sworn to them. For indeed the hand of the Lord was against them to destroy them from the midst of the camp until they were consumed. So it was, when all the men of war had finally perished from among the people, that the Lord spoke to me, saying, this day you are to cross over to the boundary of Moab, and when you cross near the people of Ammon, do not harass them or meddle with them. I will not give you any of the land of the people of Ammon as a possession, because I have given it to the descendants of Lot as a possession. The Lord keeps with his orderly divisions. On the 15th of Av is when he released for the tribes to intermarry. You see, the first 14 years of after the people crossed into the promised land, there could not be intermingling between two tribes. It was to set the boundaries, to set the tribes, and make sure the land was going to the appropriate people. So the Bible said that it was stopping from certain tribal daughters who inherited land of their fathers, that they could not intermarry, at least for the 14 years. This is just the way that the Lord would keep the division of the land and put the order in the camp. This is also what was taking place in that missing 2 years. We see that it says that they roamed in the desert for the 38 years. Now the Bible does not contradict itself. Where did the other 2 years go? Let's go back to the beginning of Deuteronomy 2. The Lord spoke to me saying, you have skirted this mountain long enough. Turn northward and command the people, saying, you are about to pass through the territory of your brethren and descendants of Esau who live in Seir, and they will be afraid of you. Therefore watch yourselves carefully. Do not meddle with them, for I will not give you any of their land, no, not much as 1 footstep, because I have given Mount Seir to Esau as a possession. You shall buy food from them with money, and you may eat, and you shall also buy water from them with money, that you may drink. Esau's land. Esau was the one who traded in part of his inheritance for the bowl of food. Interesting that the land of Esau, the Lord is commanding that the people make sure that they buy the food and the drinks with money. Like, they don't want any other things being done any other way, like back in the day. He was very clear to say this is the way that this is to be done in this land. Let's go over the 2 years. What happened at Mount Sinai? What were they doing for these 2 years? Outskirting the mountain. They were getting camp ready. They were getting the commandments made. They were getting the order of the camp set in place. They were constructing of the tabernacle, getting things ready for the journey. So this was the 2 that's out of the 40. So the 38 and the 2 equals the 40. And I just, again, as we go over these numbers and studies, the 2 being set apart, the first thing I thought was, what about the 10 and the 2? The 12 spies that went on into the new land from our last study, right? And the 2 that came back that were positive, and the 10 that came back with the bad report. And I was thinking the 2, it was interesting that there was a missing 2 out of the 40 years of wandering in the desert. Deuteronomy 8:4, the Lord says that the clothes that you wore did not wear out, or nor did your feet swell in those 40 years. He will keep you, just like he kept the Israelites, just like their clothes did not wear out. The Lord was with them. The Lord has woven a fabric for you that will not fade away. The history of AV15. Jeroboam's roadblocks were removed. They were up for 200 years. The roadblocks would keep the people from being able to get to the Holy Temple to do their 3 annual visits that they would need to do, blocking people from getting to the Holy Temple. This was a division from north to south. The king of the north was the one who put up the walls. 200 years later, Hosea, who would be the last northern king, removed the wall so people could then go into the Holy Temple. So this was a form of the Lord waiting and holding back with that 200. The study of the 20, the 200, the 2000, God's hand of power, how God uses those numbers to defeat sometimes for his people, but by his hand because of lack of faith or sin in the camp. We've been going over that. There was a holdup of the time where people can go and visit with the temple. The 9th of Av study, we went over the killings of Beltar, how thousands of Jews were killed by the hands of the Romans. Their bodies were left in the battlefield. They were held up so that they cannot bury their loved ones for 15 years. Those bodies of the Jewish people killed by the Romans would stay in the battlefield. On Av 15th, those bodies were able to be buried 15 years later. So go ahead, circle mark that 15, put that in your studies. Beltar fell on the 9th of Av, but then reconciliation happened on that Av 15th, 15 years later, when they were able to put their bodies to rest. Av 15th is also the breaking of the axe. This is the last calendar day where you can break up the wood for the service of the altar. So that what they would do, part of the ceremony, is they would break the axe that they used for the year. So this is called the breaking of the axe. This is something else that takes place on Av 15th. There is 7 weeks of reconciliation that's happening right now. It goes from the 9th of Av into Rosh Hashanah. It's going to be that 7-week mark, that 49 days, 7 times 7. Go ahead and mark that down in your Bible. We've done the study on the 49 days. It's the year that we're in now, the 49th day. You say, well, why is that? And the reason that is because we are in the last of times. We are in the last week till the Lord comes back and the new heaven comes to earth. This is that last week. We are in that time frame of the 49 going into the 50, which is a time of Jubilee. That is the time where you are with your Messiah. You are eating of the feast. You are in the New Jerusalem. It is the new time of the new land, an everlasting festival with the presence of the Lord with you always for eternity. that is the mark of the Jubilee. In August, the nights grow longer. In Hebrew tradition, it is a time to study longer. The night is created for studying. It's time for rest. It's time to replenish. It's time to hear from your Lord. This is a time marked as the 7 consolations, a time of comfort, redemption, repair, time for a renewal of the covenant. When they get to the lowest point, which is Av 9th, now it's a time for rebuilding and reconstruction. Av 15th. When we look now, we are in a time where temple is being held up. We know that the Muslims are put in place to hold that valued land until the time where the Lord releases it to be used for that third temple. We know that they are a form of the giants, like going into the promised land, that they are withholding of land for a certain time. So when we go into now what is going on, there is a wall up. There is the people at the wall. They are being stopped to go into the temple, just like the wall of Jeroboam. The wall that was placed up and put up for 200 years. The part of their covenant was to go up and do those festivals and get to that holy temple for those 3 annual visits. Now blocked. Now we look and we see that we are now still blocked from going into the temple, that there is now a wall that is there, that there is a wait for a rebuild. There's a time that we are waiting for the rebuilding of the third temple. Some are excitingly waiting for that so they can do their offerings, so they can do their sacrifices, they can go and do their annual meetings. But we know that there is now a new covenant where the Lord does not require of us to give of sacrifices. We know that there is the red heifer that is still under the priestly ordinances. It still has all red hairs. They have to check it. They daily check it for hairs, making sure there's no white hair. Once they get the red heifer and they see that there is a white hair, then it is disqualified. It is then imperfect. And we still know that the red heifers are ready for sacrifice, that they have to be a certain amount of years old. Everything has to be done a certain way. They finally have wet red heifers that do not have white hairs, that are perfectly good for the sacrifice, so the high priest can clean themselves. We know the Levites have been training. We know that something is happening, that they're getting ready for the sacrificial sacrifices. They're getting ready for their wait to be over, for the rebuilding of the temple to come. And in the second coming of Messiah, they will have a renewal of their covenant. Right now we have a new covenant. We are under a new covenant with Jesus, who came, who gave his life, who shed his blood. He is our forever high priest in the order of Melchizedek. Now they will see when he comes back, they will have to go through that 1,000-year millennial reign. They will have to go through the straits. They will have to go with Messiah, and they will be in a new time of the rebuilding of their covenant, that he still has not taken their eye off of them, that he's still there to help them, to save them, to show up again for them, that it is going to be the renewal time of the covenant. Calendars here. Av 15th is going to be on August 8th and go into their August 9th on their Shabbat. This is going to be the marking of the 15th of Av. This joyous time where the Lord is trying to make a new covenant, trying to bring restoration, reconciliation, consolement to his people. We want to know what's going on God's calendar so we can learn more about who he is. But we're going to stop right there for today. Remember to dive deep into the things of God.